If you're a Solidity developer from Ethereum, a Rust developer from Solana, or even just a JavaScript developer who's been curious about building on Starknet, but then you are put off by having to learn Cairo, this video is for you. Now look, Starknet is incredibly powerful, right? The scaling, the cost efficiency, the tech is genuinely impressive. But then having to learn a new language just to experiment with a blockchain, it's a huge barrier. Well, recently I discovered Cairo Coder. It's an AI coding assistant, but specifically built for Cairo and Starknet. Now, it actually understands the ecosystem and can translate your ideas into production-ready smart contracts without you having to, memorize syntax or spend hours in documentation. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Cairo Coder by building a real escrow system from scratch. So we're talking about something freelancers could actually use to secure payments, the whole workflow. So we'll go from an empty folder to a deployed functional application in about 15 minutes-ish using this tool. So what exactly is Cairo Coder and why should you care about it? Well, the key difference is in how it works under the hood. Now, most AI coding assistants out there are trained on general code and then they hope for the best. Cairo Coder uses something called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. So a good way to understand this is, for Cairo Coder, instead of just guessing what Cairo code should look like, or making a general inference on that, it has direct access to the most authoritative sources in the Starknet ecosystem. So we are talking about the Cairo book, the official language guide. Cairo, by example, it's a real-world set of patterns and implementations for Cairo. OpenZeppelin's Cairo contracts is a battle-tested or tested set of libraries that power most production dApps out there. And then Starknet Foundry documentation. So in case you don't know, Starknet Foundry is almost like the official testing framework within the ecosystem. And then all other core library documentations, best practices, everything around there. So it means when you give it a prompt, it doesn't just generate code. It first retrieves the most relevant up-to-date patterns from this whole knowledge base and then generates code that follow current best practices. So it's almost like you have the entire Starknet documentation team writing your contracts for you. So the implications are huge, right? You can bring your Solidity knowledge, your Rust experience, your JavaScript skills, and then Cairo Coder translates your intention into idiomatic, secure Cairo. No more language barrier. All right. So enough talk. Let's talk a little bit about the project you are going to be building today, right? Let's call it micro escrow. So the idea is simple. It should be a trustless payment system for freelancers and clients. So basically, a smart contract that holds funds until both parties are satisfied is a very typical use case for stuff like this. So the client deposits money, the freelancer delivers work, and then the smart contract makes sure that everyone gets what they agreed to. So the essential logic for this is going to be simple. We want the payer to be able to deposit funds and set who gets paid, approve release when they are happy with the work, let the freelancer claim their payments, and then handle refunds if something goes wrong. Very simple. So let's start off by setting up Cairo Coder in our development environment. First up, the API key. Now I'm here on the cairocoder.com homepage. I'll click on Get Your API Key. So it's going to take me through a quick GitHub authentication workflow. We are not going to see the full flow because I've logged in before. And then once that's done, I land on my dashboard. As you can see, I don't have a key yet. So let's fix that. I'll click Create API Key. And there it is. So this is very important. Make sure you copy this key and store it somewhere safe right now, because you won't be able to see it after you leave this page. Now, you could use this key to set up Cairo Coder as a standard model provider, like the example you see here. But for this tutorial, we're going to do something more powerful by setting it up as an MCP server in Cursor. So if you don't understand what MCP is, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. So it's a protocol proposed by Anthropic that provides how applications should provide extra context for large language models, running anywhere. Typically, we refer to them as MCP clients. But you don't need to understand the whole concept. I'm going to show you a full step here. But the key thing is that it's going to let us use all of Cursor's advanced agent features while letting Cairo Coder handle what it does best, which is writing expert level Cairo code. So I'll click on View Documentation up here in the corner. Okay, now in the docs, let's head over to Use Coder with Cursor tab. And if I scroll down a bit, here we go. Set up Cairo Coder MCP. This is the section we need. Now, we don't need to copy the full JSON block, especially if you have some MCP servers already set up in your IDE. So we'll just copy the specific object for Cairo Coder. Great. Now let's jump back into Cursor. I'll go to Settings, then Tools and Integrations, and in the MCP2 section, I'll click on Add New MCP Server, and then paste in the configuration I just copied. The last thing to do here is to replace the placeholder with the actual key we saved previously. Let me do that now. Perfect. Now back in the docs, right below the server config, we have the rules. So let's just copy that real quick and head back to Cursor settings. In the rules and memories tab, I think it's just rules for older versions of Cursor. So depending on what you are using, it should be either rules or rules and memories. I'll create a new project rule, mind you, not user rule, project rule, and we'll call it Cairo Escrow. Now the name does not matter actually, yeah, but then I'll paste the rules I copied from the docs, and this tells the agent things like always use Cairo for Cairo Coder for Cairo questions, you know, some code style guides, write tests for code and stuff like that. I'll set the rule type to always apply, so it's always active for every request in this project. Perfect. Now let's get to work. I already have an empty folder opened in my Cursor for our work today, and as you can see, Cursor has already added a rules directory in the root of the project. Now let's create a new folder called Escrow contract, and I'll cd into it, and then I'll run scarp init name micro escrow. Okay, now scarp is the official Cairo package manager, so it's similar to Cargo for Rust, npm for Node.js, or Composer for PHP. If you don't have it installed yet, that's fine. It's just a few commands to set it up. I'll drop a link to the installation guide in the description below. And then one more tip for a better IDE experience, I will highly recommend installing the official Cairo extension for your editor, in our case for Cursor. And of course, it means all extensions that work with VS Code work on Cursor. So it gives you all the nice syntax highlighting and code formatting. And of course, most importantly, I think it gives more context to Cursor to be able to resolve any linter errors that come up during development. Not that we'll be writing any code ourselves today, but I think it makes things look much more cleaner and easier for us to navigate the code base when we have syntax highlighting. Now I'll open lib.cairo and delete the boilerplates. Now I'm going to tell the Cursor agent what we want to build, and hopefully it will consult and use Cairo Coder to handle the Cairo specific parts of things. Now I have a prompt already prepared. I'm just gonna paste. So I'm basically telling it to create you know, the micro escrow Starknet, the contract should handle secure payments, should be able to create. I'm just basically explaining what should happen. So let's watch it go and see what happens. So it's thinking about the prompt for a moment and then trying to consult Cairo Coder on guidance on how to implement the stuff. Let's see what it asks it. So it's asking it how to implement escrow contracts with state management, security features, access controls. And then Cairo Coder is giving it comprehensive documentation about Cairo best practices. And now it examines our project structure, reading the scarp.toml, the lib.cairo. Okay. So it's taking this time to understand what we're working with, which is nice. And now it's asking Cairo again. Let's see what it's asking. Oh, okay. So it's asking this time specifically about state management for escrow contracts with ID tracking, proper access controls, you know. So I think to make sure that payers can only approve, payees can only withdraw. That's smart. And now we're starting the actual implementation. Okay, that's systematic. I can see it started with the interface I micro escrow, defining the functions needed, and then setting up the norms. Okay, that looks solid. We are going to review it much later when it's done. Okay, let's see what it's done. We have the interface. Okay, so we have the create escrow, the deposits, approve, withdraw, refund, some getter functions, and then we have the norms, and then we have some events. That's beautiful. And then the actual implementation, the create escrow, where it has some validation and then does send in the deposits. Okay, this is solid, this is solid, this is solid. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so it's trying to build, and as you can see, there are some warnings, but it actually built. So now it's trying to fix those errors that occurred, or rather linter errors. I mean, it's normal for linter errors to happen. I think that's one of the reasons why it's very, very important to install the extension so that you can provide the Cursor agent with extra context to be able to fix some of these linter errors. But the beautiful thing is it was able to get it to build at the first try. I mean, that's mind-blowing. And now it's building and perfect. The contract compiled successfully, which is a huge plus within a very short period of time. And now it's moving on to writing the comprehensive tests. It's testing for deployments, for creating escrows, edge cases like invalid paid addresses. Okay, ensuring amounts are greater than 0. That's fine. Oh, it's even preventing self-escrow. I love that. I love that. I love that. That's nice. So it's still trying to fix the linter errors and they just keep failing. Let's see what happens. So there is a predominant linter error it's not fixing, the set caller address. It's still hold on. That's not right. So it's telling us it's complete while we know the tests were not passing. So I need to push back here. So the contract code looks solid, but there are still some errors, the attributes and then the whole smart address. But let's just try and test ourselves and see what happens. And there we go, all tests are successfully passing. So the AI just built a complete tested production ready escrow contract by leveraging Cairo Coder's deep knowledge of the ecosystem. So I mean, this is the power of having domain specific AI assistants. Without Cairo Coder, we would have spent hours, trying to debug issues here and there, handle deprecations or even wrong syntax altogether. So yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Now our contract is tested and we've confirmed it's perfectly working. It's time to deploy to Starknet. We're going to deploy to the Sepolia testnet network. Now in Starknet, all deployed contracts are instances of certain declared classes. So first we need to declare our class, then we'll deploy it. For this, I'll be using Starkly, which is a very, very beautiful CLI tool that allows or that enables interacting with the Starknet ecosystem to be very, very seamless, right? I have it installed already, but if you've not, I'll include some links in the description below on how to do that. It's a very easy setup. Now first, to demonstrate the full workflow, we are going to create an account, fund the account, and then deploy the contract right here. So to create an account, let's create a directory to hold all our JSON configuration. So I'll create a directory here, Starkly wallet, and then I'll initialize a key store. Starkly signer key store new, and I'll provide a password to encrypt the key store, and that's done. Next, I'll initialize an account using OpenZeppelin's account contract. So Starkly account OZ init, right? Yeah, beautiful. And I'll provide my key store password, and that's done. So if you read here, once deployed, this account will be available like this. So our account is not deployed yet, so we'll have to deploy that. So let's do that real quick. Provide the key store passwords and it fails. So if you've used Starkly before, this shouldn't be new to you. So when you don't provide an RPC URL, it uses one of the random ones, one of the free random ones, which are not necessarily available at all times. So I'm going to use one of the Blast APIs for maximum availability. So I'll run this again and provide the version 8 Blast API, and this should work. Provide the key store password, and boom, beautiful. Now we have an address and it's asking us to fund, which is expected. So we have to fund the account before it can be deployed, right? Because some stack is going to be taken to be able to deploy this account. So let me copy this wallet address and send some stack to this wallet from my other wallet, and then we'll return here and press enter. Boom, transaction successful. So now that the transfer has went through, let's go back to the terminal and I'll press enter to continue. There we go. Transaction confirmed and our account has been deployed. Now for the actual contract deployment, let's first declare our contract class. So I'll run Starkly declare, providing our key store, our account, the target contract class that was compiled, which is target/dev/this. This is the compiled contract class, and then our RPC URL, and then we run. Provide the key store password, and it compiles and declares. Perfect. Now it's done. So we have a class hash. This class hash is like a unique fingerprint for our contract code on Starknet. Now I can deploy an instance using this class hash, using Starkly deploy. I'll replace the class hash here with the recent class hash we have. Let's go. Provide the password. And done. We are live. So contract has been deployed to this address. I'll copy this for the front end. Now we can check it out on Voyager to make sure that the contract is actually deployed. Sepolia Voyager.online. Check out the contract, and we see that the contract was deployed. This is the class hash. If you check the class hash, we see our contract, beautiful, our functions, which is fine. Now, for the user interface, I mean, real users are going to use real front ends to interact with our smart contracts. So let's build something that users can actually see. I'll copy this contract address, which is very, very important. And let's clear the terminal so we have a clean slate. I'll create a new folder for our front end, call it Escrow frontend, and seed into it. And then scaffold an Next.js project here, so it's easy to get started. npx create next, okay. Use to go back, yes. And that's done. Now, time for another prompt, but this time it's for the React side. I need to be specific about the UX flow for AI. So let me just let's create a very comprehensive. Great, it's generating the layouts. Let's just watch it as it goes. Then creating the providers. So we wrap our providers with the Starknet config, providing the Sepolia chain and the public provider. That's perfect. So the initial front end Claude gave me, or Cursor agent gave me, was not so wonderful. It was functional, but it was not so visually appealing. So I went on ahead behind the scenes to clean it up a bit. So you can see it here. I will include the links to the repo of both the contract and the front end in the description below, so you can look at it and then maybe try it out yourself. But then we have our ABI defined in TypeScript. We have our Next.js project, the layout. I think the key places we have to look at is under components, we have the header where we do the connection. So we initialize the connection using the Starknet kit to use the modal. We are still going to see that later. And then we have the Starknet dApp itself that includes the list of escrows, which is here. So in our escrows list, you can see a function to fetch our escrows, which initializes our contracts and then calls the get user escrows, and then we do some extra stuff to format the escrow, to format the escrow details, which includes formatting the contract address and then formatting the escrow amount from the return values we got, because these values come in as felt text, so we have to format them to TypeScript, and then we set the escrows. And we also have the modal here for creating a new escrow. You also see how we handle that. We do some validation, and then we execute passing the contract address, create a escrow entry point, and then we pass the data we want to pass, which is the amount. In this case, we are passing the main amount as the low and then setting the high as 0. And that's all. So enough talk, let's see our beautiful UI in action, npm run dev, and it starts up our app. Now we can visit localhost 3000 to see the final application. All right, beautiful. So this is how our finished micro escrow dApp looks like. And I mean, this is basically what 15 to 20 minutes with Cairo Coder gives you. So let's test out our contract and make sure that everything is working properly. First, I'll connect my wallet. I've already set up an agent wallet, or I think it's now ready wallet. So I'll connect to my wallet here on Arc browser, and it's connected. And then I need to create an escrow. So to be able to demonstrate this properly, I'll connect another wallet in Chrome so we can, have an escrow transaction between the two wallets. So I'll switch back here to Chrome, open the same page, and connect the wallets to the Bravos wallet we have here. Beautiful. Now we have the two wallets connected to our application. Let me create a new escrow. Go back here, open up Bravos wallet, copy the account address here, come back here. Oh, sorry about that. And paste in the wallet address. And let's send, say, 10 star and create the escrow. It opens up the pop-up for me to review and sign the transaction. And we can do that real quick. Perfect. Now it's going to wait for some seconds, confirm our transaction. And if you refresh after some time, we have the escrow here created. Now, if I go back here and refresh too, and we connect our wallet once more, we see our escrow. It's been created, but as the payee, which is me in this browser, you can't do anything till the seller, the payer approves the transaction. So let's switch back to the payer. You have to deposit first. Fine. You get the pop-up, approve the transaction, confirm, deposit. Perfect. Now the escrow has been funded. Of course, if you go back here and refresh, connect our wallet once more, the escrow is funded, but the payee cannot withdraw from the escrow yet till the payer approves of this transaction. So let's go back to the payer once more, approve. Once more, it opens up the modal for us to sign and confirm the transaction. Let's do that real quick. It will take some time. Once it's confirmed and the escrow refresh, there we go. So the escrow has been approved. If you now go back to the payee address and refresh for some time, we can now claim the escrow. So let's do that real quick. I will claim the escrow. It opens up the modal to confirm and sign the transaction. Let's do that, sign the transaction, and it's done. We wait for the transaction to be confirmed on chain, and it's successful. And that's it. We have a full round trip from the buyer to the seller, or from the client to the service provider. It's a very simple workflow. And thanks to Cairo Coder, we're able to have it, right? So the most important part of what we just did today is that I didn't have to write any Cairo by hand. So Cairo Coder took my requirements and turned them into secure, tested, and deployed smart contracts. So that means if you are coming for Solidity from Rust, from PHP, from JavaScript, basically any other language, it's a really, really powerful way to get started building on Starknet right away. So hopefully this has shown you what is possible with Cairo Coder. So go to cairocoder.com, grab an API key, and try building one of your own ideas. I'm really, really curious to see what you create. Thanks for watching. Bye.